Hello everyone, thanks for checking out the channel. If you like this video, please remember to like, and if you subscribe, be sure to comment below. I reply to every comment. My name is Gabriel, a humble villager in the small hamlet of Ravenswood, nestled amidst the dense forests of 16th century Europe. Our lives were governed by the cycle of seasons, and the year 1570 had been a particularly harsh one. Starvation and sickness had claimed the lives of many, leaving the rest of us to cling to hope and our tenuous grasp on life. As the night fell upon us, the sky was clear and adorned with countless twinkling stars, yet the full moon, radiant and imposing, sent shivers down my spine. It was a night like any other, but something felt different. The air seemed to hum with an unsettling tension, and the usual chorus of nocturnal creatures was eerily muted. The villagers went about their evening chores with a cautious eye, well aware of the legends and stories that were whispered around campfires. A shadow hung over the community, the legend of the beast that prowled these very woods during full moons. They called it the Werewolf, a monstrous creature cursed to roam the night, seeking flesh and blood. Many believed it to be a product of fevered imaginations and old wives' tales, but not I. My father's father had spoken of a harrowing encounter he had in his youth. He had seen its burning crimson eyes and heard its guttural growl echoing through the forest. As I returned from the well, carrying a bucket of water on my shoulders, a cold wind whispered through the trees. I quickened my pace, desperate to reach the safety of my small cottage. The moon bathed the surroundings in an ethereal glow, casting elongated shadows that danced on the forest floor. My heart pounded in my chest, and every snap of a twig sent me jumping with terror. Upon reaching the edge of the village, I glanced back at the woods. There, standing amidst the shadows, was a figure, hulking and imposing. My blood turned to ice, and I nearly dropped the bucket in my fright. A chill ran down my spine as the figure's eyes met mine, reflecting the moonlight in a haunting crimson hue. It was the werewolf, and it had come for me. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I dropped the bucket and ran as if the devil himself was at my heels. I screamed for help, but my voice was swallowed by the dense foliage. Panic consumed me as I realized I was being hunted and there was no escape. The village houses were within sight, and I pushed myself to run even faster. The looming silhouette of the werewolf followed close behind, the sound of its snarls growing louder with each step. Desperation led me to take a sharp turn into the thicket, hoping to lose the creature amidst the tangled underbrush. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I tried to quiet my ragged breath. The moon's light filtered through the canopy, casting ghostly shadows that seemed to dance around me. Each rustle of leaves, every snapping twig, sent waves of terror through my body. But my efforts to evade the creature were in vain. Its keen senses were relentless, and it hunted me with a determination that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. As I stumbled, it closed the distance between us, and I could hear the heavy thuds of its massive paws on the forest floor. I knew that my fate was sealed, that the werewolf's hunger would soon be satiated with my blood. I had reached the limits of my strength, and I fell to my knees, no longer able to run. The creature emerged from the darkness, its eyes locked onto mine, its hot breath steaming in the chilly night air. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, and I braced myself for the inevitable. The werewolf lunged, and a chilling howl echoed through the woods as it claimed its prey. The full moon, a silent witness to the horrors of that night, cast its solemn light upon the grisly scene. And so, my life ended at the claws of the cursed beast, leaving the villagers of Ravenswood to tremble in fear and sorrow, knowing that the werewolf would return with the next full moon, and the hunt would begin anew. My name is Matthias, a seasoned hunter and tracker among the villagers of Ravenswood. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the sleepy hamlet, I gathered my hunting companions, Hans and Eric. Rumors of a grisly attack had spread like wildfire, and it was our duty to investigate and protect our village from whatever malevolent force lurked in the shadows. Guided by the unsettling reports and signs of struggle, we ventured into the heart of the forest where the dreadful incident had occurred. The air was thick with an eerie silence, and the usual symphony of birdsong had vanished. It was as if the very woods held their breath, anticipating our grim discovery. As we followed the trail of broken twigs and disturbed undergrowth, a pungent odor filled the air, a foul combination of iron and rot. My instincts told me that we were drawing closer to the site of the attack. My grip on the handle of my hunting axe tightened, and my heart raced in anticipation and dread. The trail led us to a small clearing where the grass and soil were stained with dark splotches. The sight that met our eyes sent a shiver down my spine. There, lying amidst the debris, were the grisly remains of the villager who had fallen victim to the werewolf's ravenous appetite. Eric gasped, crossing himself, while Hans covered his mouth to stifle a horrified cry. The attack had been vicious, leaving behind nothing but a mutilated corpse. The poor soul's body was torn and mangled beyond recognition, and it was evident that the werewolf had shown no mercy. I could barely bring myself to look, but as a hunter, it was my duty to assess the situation. The victim's clothing was shredded, and deep claw marks adorned his flesh. The haunting crimson eyes of the werewolf, described in the tales, seemed to linger in the air, taunting us from the shadows. "What foul beast could have wrought such horror?" Eric murmured, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. "Only the cursed werewolf could have done this," Hans replied somberly, crossing himself again as he spoke. I nodded, my mind racing with the implications of what we had found. The legends were true, and we were facing a menace far more sinister than we could have imagined. The safety of our village depended on our ability to hunt down this creature and put an end to its bloody rampage. "We must warn the villagers," I declared, my voice firm despite the fear that gnawed at my insides. "Tell them to stay within the safety of their homes until the moon wanes. We'll gather a group and hunt down this creature before it claims more innocent lives." Hans and Eric nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. There was no time to waste. We had to act swiftly before the next full moon unleashed the werewolf once again. As we turned back toward the village, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm embrace upon the world. But within the depths of Ravenswood's forest, an ancient evil lurked, and the chilling howl of the werewolf echoed through the trees, a haunting reminder of the terror that awaited us under the next full moon. The castle of Ravenswood, a venerable bastion of stone, stood regally at the heart of our village. Its ancient walls bore witness to centuries of history, and its grand halls whispered the tales of kings and nobles who had long since passed. It was within these time-honored walls that I sought an audience with King Frederick, my hope resting upon his support and the resources he might offer to combat the malevolent force that had befallen us. The morning had dawned cold, a nip of frost in the air in stark contrast to the warm embrace of the sun that bathed our village in golden light. Despite the beauty of the day, my heart was heavy, burdened by the gruesome discovery we had made earlier. I knew that the safety of our village depended on convincing the king of the imminent danger we faced. 2 guards, resplendent in gleaming armor, stood as sentinels before the castle's entrance. Recognizing me as one of the village's hunters, they granted me passage with a nod of recognition. I traversed the castle's grand halls, adorned with ornate tapestries and ancient suits of armor, until I arrived at the king's audience chamber. The chamber itself was a tableau of opulence, but the atmosphere within was laden with tension and solemnity as I entered. King Frederick, a ruler renowned for his wisdom and stern demeanor, occupied his throne, flanked by his counselors. I approached, bowing respectfully before him. "Your Majesty, I humbly beseech an audience and your assistance in a matter of dire urgency," I began, my voice unwavering despite the gravity of my words. The king regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Speak, Matthias. What has prompted your swift arrival at my court?" Drawing in a deep breath, I recounted the harrowing details of the attack in vivid, gruesome detail. No gruesome aspect was spared, from the horrific condition of the villagers' mangled remains to the acrid stench of death that clung to the air, and the ominous presence of the crimson-eyed werewolf. The counselors exchanged grave glances as they listened, and a heavy silence cloaked the chamber when I concluded my account. This creature, Your Majesty, is unlike any adversary we have encountered. It possesses unparalleled speed and strength, and its thirst for blood knows no bounds. If we do not act promptly, more lives will be claimed, and our village will be thrust deeper into the abyss of terror. King Frederick's countenance grew solemn as he absorbed the gravity of the situation. Matthias, our hearts go out to you for the tragedy that has befallen your village. We cannot ignore such a dire threat. Tell me, what aid do you seek? I nodded, gratitude swelling within me for the king's compassion. Your Majesty, I implore you to warn the villagers of the imminent danger that looms over us. We must act swiftly to fortify our defenses and prepare for the next attack. The counselors engaged in hushed deliberations among themselves, considering the request. After a moment, the king raised his hand, silencing their murmurings. Very well, Matthias. You have our pledge. We shall dispatch heralds to warn your village, and our resources shall be made available to bolster your defenses. May the gods guide you in this endeavor. Relief washed over me as I comprehended the king's support. Your Majesty, you have our deepest gratitude. With your warning and assistance, we shall strive to safeguard our village from this monstrous menace. The king nodded, acknowledging my gratitude. Go forth, Matthias, and may the shadows watch over you and your villagers. With the king's assurance in hand, I exited the audience chamber, my thoughts now focused on the preparations that awaited me. As I stepped out into the crisp morning air, I knew that the days to come would be fraught with peril and uncertainty. Yet, with the sun shining brightly overhead and the king's support at our side, a glimmer of hope kindled within me, a hope that we could confront the darkness that had befallen our village and emerge victorious.